she was able to survive out in the middle of nowhere for 9 days. So we heard her side. Now let's go to another side of all of this, the side of the first responders. We have two of the people with DPS who helped in this search and the search operation here. So we're going to start with you, Tiffany, because you were in the beginning stages of all of this. So what happened? So who found the car first?
The car, to my knowledge, was found by a reservation game and fish ranger. He was the one that initially notified Ranger, asked us to come out and start looking in the area. That was on April 3rd. We got out there late in the afternoon with about an hour to search multiple canyons without any contact with her on that day.
How long were you on the ground searching?
We never were on the ground. We were just in the air.
Okay.
We were just in the air. They had located her car and her cat that day, but no sign really of where she had gone or where she might be at that point.
And the cat was in the car?
The cat was in the car, so they took possession of the cat and got him out of the car and taken care of that day. And the search continued. The search the next day was turned over to Gila County Sheriff's Office and their search and rescue crews.
So you got involved on April 3rd, and from what we're hearing now after the fact, this woman decided to venture out, or she became lost, I should say, around March 31st. So she had been out there already for 3 days.
That's correct.
Okay. Were you thinking to yourself, this is not going to be a good situation here?
At that point, it had only been a few days, and we have had other rescues where people survive in the woods for a few days. The temperatures weren't too extreme. The weather wasn't too bad. So it was, we were optimistic at that point, but searchers really needed to get onto it, and we needed to do the work to try to locate this lady.
Okay, Tiffany, thank you. All right, over to Lowell now. You got involved a little bit later on here on the 9th, right?
Correct.
So this is the day that she was rescued. So what prompted you guys to get up in the air and start searching?
So on April 9th, Gila County called us, and they had located her footprints walking down a sand wash. And Tiffany had already been on the flight earlier that you just talked about. I didn't have any prior knowledge of the rescue or search in progress. So when we got the call on the 9th and they had found footprints, we went ahead and launched, flew out to the area. They had given us coordinates of the footprints and located the searchers on the ground. And we spoke with them. They were pretty confident that they were her tracks and that they were moving down the creek. So we did a high overflight of the area and didn't spot her initially. And so we got down low and flew down the creek where the footprints were. And we were flying low, like 50 feet above the ground, probably 15, 20 miles per hour. And we were able to locate the help sign that she had made out of rocks and sticks.
But you saw the skull first, right?
We did. I saw the elk skull, so I kind of brought the helicopter to a hover just to look at it. Yeah. And as I was looking at the elk skull, I noticed that she had made a help sign out of rocks and sticks. We didn't know for sure it was her, but we figured the chances were. So we were able to get the ground rescuers to move down to that location.
They were pretty close by anyway.
They were about a half a mile up creek from where the help sign was. And when they arrived at the help sign, they found that Ann had left a note saying the date, which was April 2nd when she was there, and that she had been out of food at that point for 3 days. And she was continuing downstream to try to find a ranch, I believe is what it said on the note.
So when you see that date, what was going through your head now knowing, on April 9th, a significant amount of time later, that she didn't have any food or water?
Right. It's hard to remain optimistic at that point that she hadn't eaten any food. There was water in the creek right there, but not having any food and that we were 7 days behind her when she had left that note. It's still, in my mind, we're looking, it's a recovery and probably not a rescue. But we're optimistic, but it's hard. In the back of your mind, you're thinking it's probably going to be a body. Sure. So we continued downstream. And the canyon gets really steep and rough, and there was a couple little waterfalls, and didn't look that passable for a 72-year-old. Obviously, we didn't know who Ann was at that point. And as we continued to fly down the creek, we saw what we thought might have been an old campfire, but we were not completely sure on that. And we eventually actually came upon her purse laying on a rock that was probably 2 miles downstream from where the help sign was, and that made us realize that she had indeed crossed the rough terrain that we'd been flying over to that point. And once we noticed the purse on the ground, we continued on down the creek. And it's narrow. The canyon, it's just wide enough for the helicopter to fly down. Real tall rock walls on each side. And I flew around the bend, and she was standing up. We were low, so she was almost level with us. She was standing up on a little rock shelf and waving her arms, and I was completely shocked. I don't know. It was like seeing a Hail Mary pass for a touchdown. I mean, I did not think that we were going to find her alive.
Alive and completely seemingly fine.
Correct. Yeah. I remember she had a big floppy hat on, and she was waving her arms, and I was just, wow.
Where was the dog?
He had left her at that point. I think he had left earlier that day, so we didn't see the dog. I think while we were flying, they'd called us on the radio and said they had located her dog, which in my mind, that was before we had found her, and I'm thinking if the dog left, he might have stayed with her until, the bad news happened and then might have left her. So the whole time until we saw her standing up, we were thinking that we were probably looking for a body.
But that wasn't the case. She was alive. She hardly needed any help to get into the helicopter. I mean, like you said, you're completely stunned. Is there anything, though, people listening to this story, is there anything that people can take away from it and learn from it?
I think once you were in Ann's situation, and initially it would have been better for her to stay with her car or on a road, and she would have been located much sooner. I think the thing that is amazing to me is it's a testament to just the human spirit and her optimism and good attitude that she was going to make it. And even when she got in the helicopter, I looked back at her and her face is just covered in black soot, and she's smiling and almost laughing, and I think that positive attitude and just her keeping her cool in her wits, I think is what kept her alive. And her dog, she mentioned to us that the dog was huge for her morale and that. So. All
right. Well, Lowell, Tiffany, thank you guys so much. What a story. I bet you've never seen anything like this before in your careers, right?
This is a first.
Yeah, I bet. Okay. Well, thank you so much. This is a huge, her surviving is a huge in part because of you guys. So thank you so much. And this is a story that's captivating this entire country, everyone. And we're hearing all sides of it here in Tucson this morning. Back to you, Ron.